Hey, it's me, your girl Chic from Chic Say What. And thanks for checking in with me. If you can, if you could like, share, subscribe, please be interactive, leave comments. But today's going to be a pretty interesting, a good topic, something I seen out there in the YouTube streets. And a question was posed. I guess it's a two-part question. What is unattractive about the nice guy? And why do some women not choose the nice guy? The nice guy. So when we think about the type of guy that we want to date or we want to pursue us, what does that look like? Is that the guy that's the popular guy, the street guy, the athlete, the musician, the rapper, the guy with the pants sagging, the guy with the hair? Like, what does that look like? Or is that the guy who, let's see, is your local, mechanic, the guy you met at church, a single father whose kid go to the same school as yours, but just a guy who just about pretty much going to work, taking care of home. It's like we all kind of have our perception of what a good guy or what a nice guy is. And I've heard, just with listening to different platforms, men out there who think that it's really comes down to it not being, enough decent or good guys out there, but it comes down to just the type of guy that women are just choosing to date. So, for example, you may hear women say, "Oh, these men are trash. There's no good men out there. I'm just going to be by myself." Or you even have some who decided to just cross over and just, start dating women. It's those kind of reasons that you'll hear, a lot of, those type of complaints that a lot of women out there may have. I personally, know quite a few single women, and, I've seen them date and it just kind of doesn't work out. So the question is, why? Is it because just all men are just trash? They're just no good. They're just about playing games? Or is it the type of women that the type of men that these women are attracted to? Are they not attracted to the type of men that will be there for them to, provide for them, protect them, take care of their kids, not leave them as baby moms? Are they just not attracted to a man that will respect them, treat them like a queen, marry them, take care of the children, things like that? So I think it's kind of like, twofold. It's like, okay, are men just out there just doing the most and not putting their best foot forward? Or are women just overlooking the good man? Like, do they have realistic expectations of what a man is supposed to do in the relationship? Are their expectations based off of what they see on social media or on the gram, where you hear a lot of people talk about relationship goals, this, that? It might be a guy who's, a celebrity with a lot of money, bling, cars, and, they're posted up with pictures of their girlfriend, baby mom, wife in some instances, and the wife or the lady of their life looks very well taken care of. So are women out looking for that? Is that realistic? And basically, is that what you really want? Is that what they really want? because the way I look at it is that that's something that many women may be chasing after. So if you're wanting that type of guy, how many other women are wanting that type of guy as well? So then that brings up the conversation of just, the cheating, the infidelity. Like I heard, I don't know if it was like maybe someone talked about Carrie Hilson a couple of weeks ago, where she had said that she would never date like an entertainer, athlete, or something, and she broke her because I guess because of the whole cheating things, one can assume. And then she went against her rule, and it didn't work out for her. So basically, what many people think comes with the territory of dating someone popular, someone who has quote unquote street cred. It comes with the competition amongst women. And, is that something women really want to deal with? And are we dealing with, we have a lot of women that say, I don't want this and that, I want this and that. And then their actions are just completely different. Like they say, well, I want a man to treat me this way and that way. But when a man that's kind of different from what they normally pursue approach them, then it's just like, no, I'll pass. They're not kind of open to giving it a chance. For example, if we just use the music artist Ciara, when you look at her track record of the men that she dated, such as Bow Wow, Future, 50 Cent, just to name some of the men that I can think of in my head, they look a lot different from who she decided to marry. And one has to wonder, was it a conscious decision for her to try something different? I remember back when I first learned that she was dating Russell, years ago, seems like almost forever. And I was the first to say, oh, that's not going to work, because I judged it based off of what her track record was. My thing was, how do you go from being with someone like Future to being with someone like Russell Wilson? And it had nothing to really do with looks or level of attraction. It was just more of the energy. I wondered if the chemistry would have been there, because my thing is, like, prior to Russell, all of the other men, they looked more alike when you packaged them up, and Russell was just like in this standalone category. Also, his wife didn't look like Ciara. So even going off of that, just for either one of them, it just looked like, wow, this is just something very different for both of them. And when I saw that it worked, it's just like, okay, well, let's go deep and let's, explore this. And the only thing I can think of is that she subconsciously or consciously said, you know what, I need to try something different. I want to do something different. And that's what she did. And because what they say, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting something different. So I wondered if she thought, wow, like, I need to do something different. Like, I need to try something that I haven't tried before, since I'm wanting a different type of result. And today, they're married. I think they may have just celebrated maybe 6-year wedding anniversary, something like that. But they've been together for a while. Time flies. Just had a third child. So are enough of us ladies making conscious decisions to try something different? Because if you have been doing the same thing over and over again, and for the most part having the same results, at what point do you say, you know what, let me just try to do something different versus, going down that path? Instead of going right, let me try to go left, because I've been going right and I ain't been working out. So let me just try something different. And I was always one of those people that believed that it's far easier to fall in line with what everybody else do than it is to go against the grain and to do something different. And using just myself as an example, that's kind of how I just view my life and the decisions that I made as it pertains to, make a decision to marry, have children with my husband, uh, continue to stay married. It was a conscious decision. Like, it was something that I actually put thought into. And it wasn't because it was something that I grew up seeing. Because if I had done just what I grew up seeing, I wouldn't be married. And if I have children, it's a good if I have more than one child, it's a good chance they would have different fathers. That's the example that I saw. And consciously, I told myself I wanted something different because I saw the end result of people, loved ones making those decisions. And it wasn't a result that I wanted for myself. So I consciously said, hey, I want to get married. And that's what I did. I'm going to have kids by my husband. And that's what I did. I'm going to work through these challenges in my marriage. And that's what I've been doing. October 1st will be 17 years we've been married. My husband and I have been married. So these are just conscious things, conscious decisions that I have made. So when we talk about, as we bring it back to the good guy versus the bad guy, how has it worked out for us with us choosing the quote unquote bad guy? In high school, the guy dated maybe like the last year or two in high school. He was what one would consider the bad boy. And I remember, and I had the reputation of a good girl. So when people would learn that that's who my boyfriend was, the guy, they would be so surprised because it's just like, wow, I wouldn't put you guys together. From a physical appearance, you would put us both together, from a looks category. He was considered, to be an attractive guy. And I was considered to be an attractive, young lady. But as far as like the energy, we were just different. But that difference is kind of what was exciting me because it's just like, wow, he's just something different. He moved different. I'm from California. He was from New York, but it was just a whole different type of energy. And we connected. It worked to a point, but at the same time, it didn't. So you kind of got to look at it as to say, well, what's considered? So he engaged in, he'd smoke and do all these things. I didn't do those things. So the rule was, okay, I'm going to do, just don't do it around me. That was a rule that I had, and he respected that. But then, graduation came. And at this point, I'm like, okay, I don't want to continue to just be in a relationship with someone where I'm concerned about what type of future we're going to have, as far as if they're going to know when it's time to kind of put down or stop the bad behavior for the sake of, for one, staying out of jail, and two, keeping a job. I thought ahead like that because to me, if you don't sometimes stop to think ahead like that, you can put yourself in a situation and you look up and it's just like, wow, I wish I would have made a different decision. So I was always just known to be one of those people. I guess you could have called me back then a dreamer, to where I would kind of think about my future very often. Like, I was just that type of person. If I could have just planned out my whole life, like I would have. I was just a dreamer like that. So I thought a lot about my future and what I wanted that to look like. And it did. In the way he was living his life at the time, at, let's just say at this point, 18, it wasn't a way of life that I wanted to go into my 20s. So pretty much once we graduated high school, that fizzled out, and I never looked back, never dated what would be considered a bad boy ever again. So I learned my lesson, and fortunately, it was something that I was able to learn without basically making some decisions that impacted my life forever, such as having a child or choosing to marry that particular person. Like, I got out before any of that. And I feel like a lot of times there are signs that are present right away when we meet people, and we choose to ignore them for whatever reason. maybe because, you just find them to be just so attractive, maybe because you just don't want to be by yourself and this is somebody that's showing you interest. But for whatever reason it is, a lot of times we can kind of get fixated on that reason and disregard logic, disregard those signs that are there that's saying this, he is not the one. But we do it anyway. And then we look up, there's a baby, maybe some STDs, one that you can or may not be able to get rid of. There may be fighting with some other women, all kinds of things that could have been avoided had we not dismissed the signs that were there. And I think that when we do dismiss those signs, it can get us in trouble. It really can. And I think more often than not, people will say, you know what, there were signs that he wasn't it. Maybe the sign that he was living with another woman was a sign that he wasn't it, because maybe if he was living by himself or not in a relationship or a situation, it would have been better for us. So it's just those little things we can't dismiss. Then we have those to where, say you get past the situation or whatever, and we enter a similar situation again. Like, at what point do we really learn from our mistakes and say, you know what, I need to do better. It's time for me to do better. Like, I got to do better. And I find that a lot of women in particular, just within our community, will just repeatedly do the same thing over and over again, and then just have a reason of saying, oh, well, I didn't have my father around, or I didn't have my mom. We'll have this reason, but we'll just keep applying that same reason to all of the times that we've gotten ourselves caught up in a situation. So at what point do we say, okay, that is a part of my past, but let me try to figure out how I can do something different, a different result, because what I've been doing just hasn't been working. And I can't help but to wonder as if more women made a change or an about face in the type of men that they normally allow or give their time to, if they took a chance on trying something different, if you would have more women in more successful relationships. I think change can be scary for many people. And it's understandable. I get it, because it's like, you're exploring unfamiliar territory. But many may even agree that change or taking that chance and doing something different is probably like they may say that was just like the best decision they could have ever made, by doing something different, by stepping out of the box. And I think just even with men and women, we can afford to do something like that more often. So, on the internet, I just kind of had been reading like the different types of opinions that people was having in regards to why women go for the bad guy over the good guy. So one comment that I came across that I found to be interesting and that I'd like to share, it's a gentleman, he said, I think I see the problem. So many women here putting down the nice guys, saying that they are also bad just to justify their bad choices and dating bad boys. Also, why do many Black women put so much emphasis on being a thug or being able to physically defend them? We are the only race who seem to think that. It is because so many of you are living streets. So this man's opinion, from the way I dissect it, is that women are just choosing to kind of focus on a certain type of guy. They're turning their head away from the good guy. And even though they're turning their head away from the good guy, the narrative is there's no good men out there. They're all this, they're all that. But some men are like, well, I'm ignored because I don't live that glitz and glam lifestyle that the ladies may see on social media, or they may see their family member or friend or someone they know living. So they dismiss me. So I think that is the case with some people. Someone also made a comment stating toxic people like toxic people, point blank. I think that's a real one. I think that toxic people do like toxic people. I think certain energies navigate to one another, which is why I believe that maybe oftentimes you might see two really good people, nice people that have gravitated to one another, and then you'll just see two toxic people with one another. It's really not that often where I'll just see or hear of a relationship where it's only one person in a relationship that's toxic, the other one isn't. Because if you're not toxic, why would you even bother to be entertained by that other person? I mean, if that's not what you're about. So for it to be something that kind of works for years and you even have kids, I can't help but to wonder or conclude that, okay, you both are toxic and you guys just enjoy the drama. That's something that I feel like with, and both people need to deal with their own stuff. Then there's another young lady that says, I've never even met a nice guy. Where are they at? So are there nice guys out there? You know, we're asking, okay, do nice guys finish last? But are there nice guys out there? I think there are nice guys out there. I happen to think my husband's a nice guy. From the time I met him, I always say he was like the nicest person I ever met. He's my better half. Like, he's super nice. And his niceness, that's an attractive aspect of him, of how nice, how genuine he is. My children have, a personality, like he's a very nice guy and everyone loves him. I think a nice guy can be attractive. So again, to being nice, but still being assertive and still demanding or respect. So though he's nice, he's not someone he's not a pushover also. So I always say, in order for me to be with someone, they have to be able to at least look at me a certain way that tells me, okay, now, because I know I have a strong energy, and it's almost like you give me an inch, I'll take a mile. So I always say I can't be with someone who don't set boundaries, because I know that I have a strong personality and I would be apt to push them. So I need more of, an assertive man who's assured of himself. And I think women like assertive men. You don't have to be this just alpha hoorah man, but women want that they are protected, that you're going to take care of home. There's certain requirements that a lot of women have that are very similar. And women want to know that you can provide for them and you can protect them. And when they don't feel that you can do those things, then that's when it becomes something else that can lead to infidelity or just the relationship just salvaging altogether. So I think it's important, men to really understand the needs of women collectively and understand their role as a man in a relationship. A gentleman or someone, I think it's a male, he said, nice guys tend to be a bit weird or socially awkward. I've seen that where I know nice guys, and I can see, I guess to me, when I see them, it's no wonder that they're single, because there's this different way about them. But at the same time, I'm a believer that there's someone. So even for my nice guys out there, I feel like you still have to be assertive and still be open to putting yourself out there to let it be known that you're interested in a woman or a young lady, to not just stand back and just think the worst, or to think that, okay, well, she may not like me, she may reject me, because there may always be someone who say no, even to the most attractive person in the world. You know, an attractive male, a woman might say no because there's just something about you that they're not feeling. So it goes beyond the physical. Just as attractive woman, you know, a man may not be interested because there's something off. He's not feeling your energy. He feels like maybe you got a large body count, like different reasons. So I'm one to say, you know, take a chance, as they say, shoot your shot, you know, because you just never know. You don't know. So then when you don't take that chance to learn if whether or not someone has a shared interest in you, then you just never know. You're just left wondering. Like, and then next thing you know, someone else swoops in, and it's someone you probably wouldn't have expected them to say yes to. So you're thinking like, wow, if I would have said something, I probably would have had a chance. Or later down the line, that person tells you, oh, I didn't know you were interested in me. Yeah, I would have gone out with you. But at that point, maybe the person's married, you know, so it's kind of too late. So that's why I say, you know, life's too short. Take a chance, you know, put yourself out there. You know, no doesn't hurt, you know, just because someone says no, they just say no, you know, they're just not interested. And it's just that. And I just feel like it's one of those things that maybe if you men practice approaching women, eventually someone's going to say yes. Someone's going to respond in a favorable way. And that goes for women and men. Someone's going to respond in a favorable way, just like with women. I feel like, okay, if there's a gentleman that you're interested in and he hasn't said anything to you, find a way to kind of say something to him. You know, maybe you can do it in a subtle way to show him that, you know, you're interested, or you would be willing to go out with him, invite him out for a cup of coffee, or just something. But I don't feel like we should just continue to kind of sit in the back and just hope and pray that someone we're interested in has an interest in us too. Because I figure the faster you learn whether they do or they don't, the faster you can move on. Because what good is it with waiting in the back for however long, weeks, months, years, and you then learn then that, oh, they never even liked you. You never even had a chance. It's just like, wow, I was just holding out. Or maybe you learn like, wow, the person tells you, you know, yes, I liked you. I didn't think you liked me. Like, it's just like, I was listening to a YouTuber, I think her name is Sham Booty today. And she was saying it was a guy she liked from kindergarten to, I think, 10th grade, something in high school. And I don't think she ever told him, but she liked the same guy. So that's a long time to kind of be in the background, just liking someone and never saying anything. Like, what are we doing here? At some point, like, say something, you know, because you have some guys who are like really intrigued by the fact that you let them know that you liked them, because for whatever reason, maybe they just never looked your way. Not because they didn't find you attractive. It's just that they were distracted. They had other things going on, or maybe they were in a situation. So they were just respecting that situation. So you just don't know. You just don't know. Take a chance. Shoot your shot. Just be respectful in anything that you do. Ladies, just do it. Keep it classy. Fellas, be a gentleman. But good guys, I feel like good guys can get the girl. And we live in a culture now. It's like you got so many people, you know, I think it's really a good guy time to really step up, because you got a lot of people, a lot of women, when I'm listening on these different platforms, who are just tired of the games and tired of dealing with what they've been dealing with. And maybe if something different actually presented themselves now, they'll be apt to go ahead and say, you know what, I'll go ahead and give you a try, because what I've been doing with those guys ain't working out. You got some that may still be set in their ways, but you still don't know, because there's a women out here who are just sick and tired of the nonsense. Like, they're tired. They're to the point to where they're like, you know what, forget it. I'm not dating anymore. Like where they've just completely shut down, and they mean that thing. Like they've shut down. And I I don't like to hear that. However, I understand it. But I'm also someone who do not believe that all men are bad, all women are bad. Like I don't subject myself to that thought or ideology. I feel like people, you have to judge them individually. And if you notice that, let's just say your last 3 people you dated were trash, I think that it's time to kind of take a step back and self-reflect on the type of men that you're, or men, the type of women you're choosing to entertain. Like, because it's a good chance that they have something in common. There's something about each of them that you gravitated towards. So maybe you need to stop and explore that. Because maybe if you identify that, you'll be more conscious of that when the next person approaches you, because it'll be one of those things like, oh, wow, I've seen that before. So let me kind of steer clear of that, you know, and that's just us starting to learn from previous situations. And that's life lessons. That's the whole point of life lessons, to learn from those situations, because that's grow. It makes no sense to continue to just do the same thing over and over again and have the same cries over and over again when behavior isn't changing. Because sometimes we can't look for that behavior to change in other people or the other person, look for it to change within ourselves. So therefore we can get a better outcome. Because I believe that when we do make that conscious effort, that conscious decision, and the effort to move, act, behave, think, do differently, I think more than often than not, we're going to get a different response, and it's going to be a change, it's going to be a different outcome, and hopefully a more favorable outcome. And at least before you even throw in the towel, you would at least be able to say, I at least gave it a fair try and I tried something different. Because I always say you don't want to throw in a towel and give up on anything unless you can fully say that you genuinely gave it your all. And how many of us can really say that? Sometimes we just get so frustrated with the process, we're like, forget it. But when someone stops and asks us, like, really, did you really try, or did you just get frustrated at the first hurdle and just say, forget it? And a lot of times that's the case. You know, we get to the first stump and then we're like, you know what? I'm not about that life. This ain't it. I'm home. I'm going to bed. I'm going to find something on Netflix. Like, we just throw in the towel. And I know prior to getting married, and probably even early on in my marriage, I was just one of those, like, I had a mindset of like I was just quick to throw in the towel. But it was learned behavior because it's what I seen. And the lesson that I had to learn, you know, within the early years of my marriage is that when you are married, you can't be so quick to just throw in the towel, because it's far easier getting into a marriage than to get out of one. So you might as well work at it, you know, before you start trying to go down that path of trying to get out. And that's kind of where I really learned, I guess, the patience that I have and what it is to work through things. It's just from being married. Really, that's where I learned it from. I learned how to listen more, not be as argumentative. Like, there's certain things that I learned from just being married. And I think that doing something different, trying something different, there's a lot that we can get out of those things, a lot of positive things. And that can also be an example to your children or other people that, wow, doing something different isn't necessarily bad. It's just that doing something different because you want something different, because you want better. So that's a challenge that I have for anyone who hears this, is try something different. Just say that you stepped out on faith, because that's what it comes down to, faith. Just doing the video and being on YouTube. It comes down to faith, putting yourself out there, overcoming your fears. We all have them. It's a part of being human, but it comes down to how we navigate through them. Do we just let the fear overcome us and then we're just going to sit idle and not do anything? Or do we say, you know what, I'm scared as whatever, but I got to do this because I can't sit here in this spot because it's serving me no purpose. I'm seeing the world continue to go on, people around me doing or living their best life, taking chances, and I'm sitting here afraid. There's so many people that I see refusing to do something different because of what I deem to be out of fear. I believe a lot of people are very fearful of just change, the unknown, and they just continue to do what they've been doing, stay set in their ways, and just continue to come up with reasons to move the way they've been moving. And at the end of the day, it's not doing anything for anyone. It's definitely not getting you towards or any closer to your happy place, because you're still sitting there in your sorrow or your misery because things aren't working out the way you want them to. So that's something that I feel like we need to change. And it starts with just changing our mindset, which will result in a change in our behaviors, which will then result in a change in our outcomes. So it's levels to it. So you got to put the work in. And it's not an overnight process, but it's one of those things. The more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get with doing it. And then it becomes second nature, where you're someone who's just open to trying different things and taking a chance. And that's something that, that I've been working on just, more so probably within the last year or so, with just trying different things just to say, okay, well, I tried it. So it worked or it didn't work, but I can at least say I tried it, because you never know unless you try it. Someone in the comments that I read pertaining to the topic, do nice guys really finish last? They say, nice or not, the chemistry has to be there. And that's true. Like, the chemistry has to be there, whether it's two attractive people or one attractive person, one not so attractive person. The chemistry has to be there. Because have you ever met someone that you found them like, it's almost like they were just a shell? They were physically attractive, but it's almost like they had no soul, like no personality. So therefore there was no chemistry. They were just a handsome face or a pretty face, a nice body, but there was nothing else to it. But then you'll find the next person who, say, looks aren't as strong, but they have a wonderful smile. They have a great energy. You can talk like to where you just connect, and the chemistry is there. So that's why you can't kind of stop at the surface, because you miss out when you do that. It's like, as they say, you can judge a book by its cover. You can't stop at the surface. And many times, even with the nice guy, somebody might judge them based on the surface, because you might feel like, oh, they just look like they're really nice. Like, get to know that person, because that person just might be the perfect one for you. That person just may have that balance between the niceness and the edginess that you like. You won't know unless you stop to get to know that person. So we have to really just be open and be willing to explore our options, because I truly believe everyone has options, no matter what you look like. I believe everyone has somebody that is checking for them, whether they know it or not. There's somebody. But we just have to open our eyes to them. We just have to not have tunnel vision and not want to focus on a certain type of person, somebody that maybe has the big muscles, the fancy cars. Like, we can't just look at the one thing that the person has. We have to open up our eyes and just be willing to look to the right or to the left. Kind of like when you're driving, you have to kind of look all the way around. You can't kind of just look straight, because you'll miss some things. You'll miss some things when you don't look around. And I think that we could afford to do that more, especially with these times where we have so many single people out there. So, you have men. I listen to the platforms with men complaining about women and the quality of women that are out there. And they're like, I'm not getting married anymore. I discourage anyone from getting married, period. These women are this or that. And the same thing goes to them. Like, well, what type of women are you entertaining? I grew up hearing, men are visual. So are you just only showing interest in the woman that got the big butt and the big boobs? Like, what are you looking at? Are you looking at a woman that don't have those things that you normally look for? Are you looking beyond the body? And it's okay to be visual, but at the same time, we can't be so narrow-minded to where we're willing to overlook everything else for the physical of a person. Like, we can't be that shallow, because that's where we really get in trouble, when we are that shallow and we look up and now we've had all these kids with this man or even married him. In the cases that where we did get married, because only like about 29% of Black people are even married. So half the time, more than half the time, it's not even resulting in a marriage, but it's a good chance to come out of it, because the last I checked, it was about 80% of babies within our community that are born out of wedlock. So there is definitely room for us to kind of change our behaviors just for the sake of the culture. As I'm reading through these comments about do good guys finish last, there's a woman that says, only men that says this type of stuff are the ones that go after the women that don't want y'all. Stop doing that. So I think that can apply to just the men and the women when we're talking about what, men or women not being good. I once heard someone say, love who love you. So if you're finding that you're going after a certain type of man or woman and they're not reciprocating it, maybe it's time you just change the type of man or woman that you go after. And maybe when you change that, you'll start to actually get a more favorable response. So that's something that I feel like, that can probably be beneficial to those who are out there in the dating scene. Here's a question. The question should read, why do we consider beauty on the outside over beauty in the inside? I think a lot of what we're dealing with has to do with just the whole social media culture, where everyone's life is just put out there on this platform. So people in their everyday life are trying to emulate what they see on social media, even though what they see more often than not is not even real. I can only wonder of what we see. Let's just use Instagram as an example. What percentage of the photos that we're seeing out there are filtered? Now, that's a real question. So here it is. We're striving to look like this person or that person, and that person don't even look like that person. Like, It's crazy. I remember years ago, I don't know if I probably was in high school when Tyra Banks, I think she came out with a book or something, but she wanted to just talk about just kind of like the image of people, in particular women. And she showed pictures of herself without, before Photoshop, like without everything, and then post to show that, like, okay, sis, I don't even look like that. Like, so I always remember that because she was the first person I seen do that. And I think that was very important for people to see, in particular young girls, young Black girls to see, is because here we are aspiring to look a certain way that's more often than not unrealistic. More often than not, like I said, that person don't even look that way. That's just at the end of boatloads of makeup and filtering what they looked like. So then what gets me is then we'll see paparazzi take pictures of them and it's plastered all over the internet about what they really look like. And people are like, oh my God, that's what they look like. And then that particular is like now on this tour of just trying to defend themselves in their pictures of what they naturally look like. I remember when Khloe Kardashian did that. I don't know if that was last year. Someone caught a picture of her, and then next thing you know, she started trying to explain, how her body really looks and all that. I mean, something that really didn't need to take place, but it was unfortunate that she felt the need to explain a picture that it was presumed allegedly to be a true actual picture of her and her body. And I feel like we live in a time where it's not cool or beautiful to be natural anymore. It's like natural is like, oh my God, like her butt's lumpy or her breast's lumpy or her breast sag. Like natural just isn't it. So if it's not lifted, then you got a problem and you need to go try to fix it, which is why the whole cosmetic industry is such a billion-dollar industry. I don't know if it's millions or billions. I'm thinking billions in my head because it seemed like every third person just got off the table from getting something corrected with their body. To each his own, but I'm a believer that, you got to deal with what's inside first. And then, what's inside will exude what's outside. So then you have people who are on the side of unattractive is unattractive, nice or not. Just because someone is nice doesn't mean you have to like them. That is true. We like what we like. So just because someone is nice, no, we do not have to like them. Again, it goes back to chemistry. Everyone has the right to accept or reject an invitation. Meaning everyone has the right to accept or reject someone's pass at them. I mean, we all have that right. So no, I don't think that we have to just say yes and date any and everybody just out of pity. But I do believe that there is someone for everybody, and everybody should be open to stepping out of their comfort zone, which means maybe letting somebody that they've seen or that they may know personally, hey, I like you. I would like to go out and hang out just to see kind of what happens, because you never know. Someone says, I love nice guys. If a nice guy is getting rejected, he's approaching the wrong ones. So I feel like just because you approach someone, it doesn't mean they're the wrong one. They're just not the one for you. Like, it's a numbers thing. I feel like maybe for every 10 no's, you might get a yes. I just feel like you have to keep going. Start off by putting yourself in environments with people who have similar interests as you. So, for example, if you like sports, hanging out in environments where it's heavily sports. So therefore, okay, it's obvious since you're there that, okay, I like sports. So it wouldn't make for a difficult way to try to start conversing with someone, because you guys are in an environment that automatically, where one would assume, hey, okay, well, we both at least have this in common, if nothing else. So it'd be a good talking piece. That's something I tell a lot of ladies who are single. You have to step out, go out. And it's okay if you do it by yourself. I've never been one that's been fearful of doing anything by myself. It's okay to do things by yourself, because you have sometimes where, and men will say it, like if they see you with a pack of women, they're not going to approach you because they feel like maybe your girls in your crew going like embarrass them, say something smart to them. They just don't want to deal with that. Or you may reject them and embarrass them in front of your girls. Like they just don't like that. So I've heard them say like they just don't approach women who are in groups with other women. So I'd say, ladies, try to build a habit of just trying to step out here and doing something by yourself. Like go to a bar, sit at the bar, just try stepping out by yourself. See where that gets you. From experience, I've experienced where, okay, I've been out by myself and I have a manager or someone comp my meal. I was by myself. Would that have happened if I was with some of my girls? Probably not. So I tell women, don't be afraid to step out there. Go by yourself. Get yourself dressed up, looking nice, feeling good. Step out. Mix and mingle. Like, put yourself out there. Put yourself out there. So here's an interesting one. There's a woman who says some women who have never been protected and kept from harm's way as a child may feel that the nice guys are weak and can't protect them. The bad guys are mainly just to fill a void. That's an interesting thought. I think a lot of times the girl may end up with a bad boys because that's what they know. Maybe that's what their father was, or their uncle, or their brother. That's what they were seeing. I grew up seeing my share of bad boys as far as within my family. So I can say, okay, seeing that. And like I said, when I was in high school, that's what I dated. I dated just one, the other guys I dated wasn't, quote unquote, the bad boy. But what I'm saying is that it was familiar. It was familiar. And I think it did go a long way where I felt as far as that sense of protection, where people know, okay, this is this person's girl. So I'm not going to mess with her. She's protected. I feel that sense because of who I was with. Like the person had clout to where people knew, okay, that's his girl. So leave her alone. Like, so that was assuring. So I think a lot of times that protection piece is important. But as I said earlier on, a woman wants to feel protected and they want to know that you can provide. So the missing link with that relationship for me is the providing part. I didn't see that he was going to be disciplined enough to provide. The protection part, I felt good, but the providing part, are you going to be able to keep a job? Are you going to be able to pass a random drug test? Like that was real. And I did not want those type of concerns. So after dating him, I never dated anyone that had me to have those type of concerns. So good guy it was, because with the good guy, I didn't have those type of concerns. So we have to put thought into the type of guys that we are choosing to give our time to, because our time is precious. I see a lot of women I hear talks too of like they'll give these type of guys, quote unquote, the bad guys or the undesirable stereotypical guy that's looked at as being no good. They'll give that man like all of their good years, their 20s, 30s. And then it's like, okay, I want to get married, get settled down. And stats show, the older you get, the less likely, your chances of marriage decrease. That's the thing. Because a lot of men want the younger woman. So here it is. A lot of our women have given maybe one or two individuals like all of our youthful years, and we didn't get nothing up out of it, nothing worthwhile, but a headache probably. And then now we're 30s going into 40s, and we're like, okay, well, you kind of like you back on the scene. So it creates for kind of an uncomfortable situation because you're feeling like, okay, well, these other guys, they're wanting the younger girl. Or now, we in this culture of this, people having surgery and altering their bodies. So you're starting to contemplate doing some of those things because you feel like, okay, you may be out the game and you got to make yourself more marketable because now you're in competition with someone in their 20s. Like, it's just a lot. So that's why we have to be careful about our time and who we choose to share our time with, who we choose to give our time to, because time is precious. You can't get that back. Like I always say, you can loan somebody money and get that back, but when you give somebody your time, that's done. It's gone. And I think a lot of us can say we've given people our time, and then when we look back, we don't see we have anything to show for. And more often than not, the thing that you might feel like you have to show forth is just the kids, the babies that you had, that you gave that particular person, that you had within the relationship, and that's it. And then now you're battling with the person with trying to get them to do their part in the whole co-parent situation. So it just creates a mess. That's why I feel like if we put more thought into things up front, that can kind of save us. That can save us from pretty much enduring a lot of those types of problems. Just by thinking ahead more instead of kind of, I guess what they say, be less like reactive, where something happened and now we're trying to react or recover from what just happened, but be more forward thinking. I think we can benefit collectively from being more forward thinking. And it's unfortunate that you have a lot of the men out there who just, are thinking, that the women, some men think that just all women, forget them all. But then you got some who think that the women in the Black community aren't worthwhile as far as for dating. I disagree. I just think that it just, with everybody, it just comes down to who we choose to date. And we have to take responsibility for our decisions, which is who we've chosen to date, who we chose to procreate with, who we chose to marry, who we chose to buy a home with, like all of those things. We have to take responsibility of that, because at the end of the day, we can only hold ourselves accountable, and we can only learn from our decisions. We can only learn from our decisions. So I sit and judge no one. All I ask is that we just learn. We just learn and try to do something different. Just try to be better. Try to set a better example. I think collectively, if we did that, we can just be a better group of people just in general in society. And then just even with that being said, I think it would be less talk about good guy versus bad guy, because this would just create an environment where everybody's putting their best foot forward. Someone's comment is, I've seen a lot of women that love drama. Maybe it's because of how they were raised or whatever, but I've seen it a lot. I think a lot of people are addicted to drama because it's what they say, you're a product of your environment. That's all you've seen. So if you grew up in a household where you've seen adults interacting in a certain way, I think it's more likely that you will imitate that, or you will interact with people or the opposite sex in that way, because that's the example you were shown. But then you have people, say such as myself, who strategically say, okay, that's crazy. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something different. But I believe there's far fewer people that do that because it's easier to just fall in line, to just do what you've seen. And that's the problem. It takes work to try to do something different, to be different, to be better. Like, that's work. Like, it don't take no work to just fall into the mess of what you've seen and all that. That's easy. That's just going to come natural for most people. But to be better, that's the work. Someone's comment was, whoever can explain this needs a Nobel Prize. Like, this has been like a question since I can remember, why do good guys finish last and all of that. It's something that's been around. I think it's going to always be around, but it gives us a lot to kind of think about when the question does come up, and maybe allows for people to self-reflect. This woman's comment was, I liked the bad boy and got shot behind it. It took something life-changing for me to say, I need the nice guy. That's deep. I think, unfortunately, that's the case with just a lot of situations where people have to endure something that's kind of like life-threatening or something in order for them to change. And it's so unfortunate. Like, oh, someone has to go to jail or prison, get kicked out of school, get kicked out of their house, something drastic just for them to do better in life. And it's unfortunate that something like that has to take place in order for somebody to want better, to do better. Like, it shouldn't have to be that, but far too often that's what you see, that's exactly what it is. It takes for something drastic for someone to learn. And thank God this young lady, she survived the gunshot, because not a lot of people do, and especially women. I mean, there's a lot of women. So one YouTuber I follow, and she goes to this website. I think it's called the Gunshot Memorial. Did she say the something memorial? But it's basically this website that just has all these pictures of Black women who've been shot, who's been killed. All these pictures of Black women who've just been killed for whatever reason. And it's just very alarming. It's just very alarming. We just have to do better with the type of company we choose to keep, the type of men we choose to date. We just have to do better, because far too many of us lose our life over just foolishness, over some things that could have been avoided. So these are just some things that I just had in my mind that I wanted to share, and along with just some other ideas that people, out there in the YouTube streets had, I had comment, what their ideas were. But I think it definitely is good conversation to have, with others, just to get them to think more, whether it be, your children, your siblings, your friends. I think it just comes down to us just doing better, which starts with changing our mindset. So please like, share, and subscribe. I'd love to hear what you all have to say about the topic. Do good guys really finish last? And let me know, are you team good guy or are you team bad guy? Or are you one of those women or men that say, bump them all? They're all trash. So let me know. Until the next broadcast, peace.